Reese may be playing in the league, but who wants to see a goofy 6'6" woman miss layups? Not I.
In a game that promised high energy and headline-grabbing moments, Angel Reese, a player who has long positioned herself as the self-proclaimed queen of trash talk in women's basketball, managed to create a moment that will be remembered for all the wrong reasons. The evening started with high expectations. Fans tuned in hoping to witness dazzling athleticism, charismatic bravado, and perhaps some of that signature off-court swagger.
Angel Reese ejected from the game, picked up a pair of technical fouls for unsportsmanlike conduct at the end of the first half.
Instead, what unfolded on the hardwood was a masterclass in unprofessional behavior that left the Sport Pulse League scrambling for answers. By the end of the first half, Reese had been handed not one but two technical fouls for unsportsmanlike conduct, a decision that ultimately led to her becoming the first player in league history to be ejected from a game. Before the opening tip, anticipation ran high. Angel Reese had built her brand on a blend of confident posturing and on-court theatrics. For weeks, she had boasted that her skill set and her relentless trash talk would set her apart as the future face of women's basketball. But as the game commenced, it became glaringly apparent that sometimes excessive chatter does not translate into the kind of performance that wins games.
Sugarcoat it all you want, but if you don't have Caitlin Clark playing women's basketball, or if you're not the NCAA tournament playing women's basketball, you got nothing. Zero, zip, nothing.
While many fans had hoped to see a blend of skill and personality, what emerged was a display of incoherence, a performance where bravado outweighed basketball IQ and empty words led to even emptier stat lines. From the opening minutes, Reese strutted onto the court as though she owned every inch of it. Clad in her uniform and brimming with self-assurance, she seemed determined to prove that she was the star everyone had been waiting for. But as the game progressed, her behavior and play, so confidently promised in pre-game interviews,
That 12 was good. Yep.
Sabrina can't guard.
They're switching it.
began to unravel in real time. It wasn't long before a hot mic captured Reese's fervent trash talk. With the camera panning around, one could hear her confident declarations echoing through the stadium. "Oh, if only you knew what was coming," she exclaimed, directing her words toward the opposing team's defensive strategies. In particular, her comments regarding the performance of Sabrina Ionescu, one of the game's most formidable defenders, were biting.
Ionescu, sixth made three for Sabrina, 29 points. Reese, no.
Reese's boastful tone, however, soon proved to be a harbinger of what was to come. Rather than translating her bold words into decisive play, Reese's actions on the court painted a starkly different picture. Every attempt she made on offense was met with stiff, unyielding defense from Ionescu, who was determined to shut down the trash talk with her performance. What started as an opportunity for Reese to shine soon turned into a debacle as she found herself outmatched and outplayed at every turn.
Reese, it's phantom ball.
To the go, Nay. Get on a flight.
If Reese was eager to talk a big game, Sabrina Ionescu was busy proving that actions speak louder than words. From the moment the ball touched the floor, Ionescu's performance was a masterclass in basketball fundamentals. In a span of just 19 minutes, she amassed an astonishing stat line: 32 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists. Every move Ionescu made was a reminder that experience and skill, honed by relentless practice, can silence even the loudest of boasts. The contrast between the two could not have been starker. While Reese was caught up in her self-created hype, running her mouth and attempting to dominate the narrative,
Somehow, some way, Angel Reese actually plays a competent, sound basketball game. Her teams lose. All right? I don't know why.
the on-court reality told a different story. Ionescu's quiet efficiency and explosive performance became a beacon of what genuine talent looks like in high-pressure situations. With each basket, every rebound, and every smart pass, she slowly dismantled the myth that Reese was an unstoppable force. As the minutes ticked by, the gap between expectation and reality widened. Reese, who had paraded onto the court with the swagger of a superstar, soon found herself floundering. Missed layups, errant passes, and defensive lapses became the order of the night. It wasn't that she lacked effort. Rather, her play was reminiscent of someone still learning the ropes. Observers noted that while her teammates,
why that is, but her Unrivaled team is an unmitigated disaster, all right? A team that's got real talent on it. Kayla
on the once promising team dubbed Rose BC, fought valiantly. Her contributions were sporadic and at times downright detrimental. For those hoping to witness the polished performance of a seasoned professional, the game instead offered a cautionary tale. Here was a player who had proclaimed herself the face of women's basketball, yet every moment on the court only served to reinforce the idea that talent alone is not enough.
to be the third one here. The three-headed monster, well...
After the game, Ionescu could have gone for the jugular. She could have trash-talked right back, rubbed salt in the wound. But what does she do instead?
Without the necessary discipline, focus, and respect for the game's integrity, even the loudest voices can quickly become echoes of disappointment. The call was swift. A technical foul was issued. And then, as if the universe itself had decided that enough was enough, another technical was called shortly afterward. In an unprecedented moment, Angel Reese became the first player in Sport Pulse League history to be ejected from a game. The decision, while harsh, was a long overdue response to behavior that had, for too long, bordered on the unacceptable.
It's more devastating than any insult could have been. It's the social media equivalent of a mic drop, and Reese is left looking like the punchline to a joke she didn't even know was being told.
As she began her walk of shame off the court, the arena's reaction was a mix of shock, amusement, and disappointment. Teammates and opponents alike could only watch as one of the league's most outspoken figures was forced to exit under a cloud of controversy. For those keeping score, the numbers were damning. In just 7 minutes of play, Reese managed to record 6 points, 15 rebounds, and, most infamously, 1 historic ejection. It was a stat line that, instead of marking personal achievement, highlighted a moment of complete self-sabotage. In the grand scheme of things, those 7 minutes may seem inconsequential.
See last night, and it is hilarious. So, Angel ran her mouth right there about Sabrina this morning. 9-12.
But for Angel Reese, they became a microcosm of a career in crisis. A snapshot of what happens when pride, misdirected aggression, and a disregard for professionalism collide. For Rose BC, the repercussions were immediate and severe. The team, already struggling to find cohesion, now had to contend with the fallout of losing one of their marquee players mid-game. In a sport where every minute counts, Reese's early ejection not only stripped her team of a key asset, but also sent shockwaves through the locker room. It was as if, in her quest to prove a point, she had inadvertently sabotaged the very vehicle that could have carried her to success.
Rescue right there. Yeah, she crushed them. Watch what you're doing. A little bit like Caitlin Clark. You piss her off, she's going to crash you.
The consequences were not limited to a single game. With each subsequent match, questions began to mount about the role of talent versus temperament in determining success. How could a player who touted herself as the future of women's basketball consistently let her emotions and ego get in the way of smart, effective play? For fans and analysts alike, the answer became increasingly clear. While raw talent is essential, the ability to remain composed and respectful under pressure is equally critical.
So Rose BC are 1-4. I mean, this team is disastrous. And let us not forget,
no incident in today's sports landscape occurs in isolation, and Reese's dramatic ejection quickly became fodder for both fans and professional athletes. Social media platforms exploded with a mix of ridicule and disbelief. Memes, video clips, and commentary flooded the internet, with many calling for Reese to be benched or even cut from the league entirely. The narrative was simple. If she was going to be the face of Sport Pulse's new venture into women's basketball, she needed to start acting like one.
After the All-Star break, the Chicago sky melted down last year as the double-double streak rose. All right, rose up out of the ruin.
Even outside the sphere of women's basketball, the backlash was swift. Prominent figures from the NBA chimed in, offering their 2 cents on the matter. Draymond Green, known for his own on-court antics and no-nonsense approach, reportedly tuned out of the game in disgust, remarking in interviews that the quality of play had plummeted to an unwatchable level.
Now, to pace on the rollout. How about Rose holding McBride to just 5 points? Reese claps her hands and reaches in with the...
When someone of his stature suggests that the game's quality has been compromised, it sends a powerful message to fans and league officials alike. For Sport Pulse, the fallout from these incidents wasn't limited to the personal embarrassment of one player. It also cast a long shadow over the league's broader appeal and viewership numbers. The debut weekend of the league had initially been met with a flurry of excitement. Early numbers suggested an average of around 300,000 viewers per game, a figure that, on paper, rivaled some of the more established women's basketball leagues. Networks like TNT were quick to celebrate these early numbers, proclaiming them as a sign that the league had hit a home run from the start. However, as the dust settled and the initial hype began to wear off, a disturbing trend emerged.
Wow. Oh, she just got teed up.
Live viewership began to drop precipitously, from those promising 300,000 viewers per game to barely 100,000. What had happened? Analysts began to speculate that the dramatic on-court antics, far from boosting ratings, were actually alienating viewers. Instead of drawing in fans with the promise of exciting high-level play, the league was instead serving up controversy and theatrics that many found distasteful. In stark contrast, established stars in women's basketball, most notably Caitlin Clark, continued to draw audiences in the hundreds of thousands.
So I didn't see the reaction of Tiffany Hayes as she's now standing in front of...
Even exceeding 1 million viewers per game when her star power was fully engaged. It became increasingly clear that while sensationalism might garner short-term interest, long-term success depended on quality basketball and genuine competitiveness.